coming to my presentation. My name is Patton. I'm the Environmental Coordinator for the Native Village of Eyak. I've been with NVE since 2010. The Native Village of Eyak is a federally recognized tribe that represents Alaska Natives from Cordova and the surrounding area. NVE is governed by a 5-member traditional tribal council which promotes self-determination for its tribal members. Tonight I will talk about the Cordova Clean Harbor Group and what has been done, and I will also talk about the Clean Harbor grant that NVE has recently won. Monies were awarded May 2014. All right, this is the list of all the organizations that are active partners of the Cordova Clean Harbor Group. In addition to this, there are many individuals that are concerned and have donated a lot of their time and energy for this cause. And I'd like to thank everybody for participating. Working together to keep our harbor free of oil and debris. That is one of our mission statements. So why is the Clean Harbor important? The Cordova Harbor is located in the heart of our town. It is heavily relied upon by commercial fishermen, recreationists, tourists, and subsistence users for food, work, and play. It is heavily relied upon by numerous juvenile fish, sea otters, seals, and birds for forage and food. Small community harbors tend to have very little circulation and are exposed to many point and non-point sources of pollution. Harbors also tend to be depositional sites for many types of pollutants. And the bottom line is the amount of debris and hazardous waste in our harbor is not only a health risk, but an eyesore to all that use it. All right, a little bit about the Cordova Clean Harbor background. The Cordova Harbor water quality was voted as the #1 concern action for priority from NVE's CARE grant. And it began with a group of concerned individuals and businesses wanting to address solid and hazardous waste in the harbor. In 2012, NVE began the application process for a competitive grant to address these concerns. In May 2014, funding was awarded by the Exxon Valdez Oil Spill Trustee Council and NOAA, which is the National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, through competitive funding. The Cordova Clean Harbor project goals, from here out I'll just say CCH for Cordova Clean Harbor, is to bring a local physical presence down into the Cordova Harbor to promote clean boating practices through education and information dissemination, engage local harbor users and staff, marine businesses, Coast Guard, and nonprofit organizations in supporting increased uses of available services, and finally to evaluate, recommend, and assist with improving user practices and augmenting critical harbor services. This is a picture I took last weekend of these two little sisters who came and drew sea otters and colored them at my Cordova Clean Harbor booth at the health fair. So we're getting them young. I wanted to put this slide in before we began to show how the drainage patterns are in our town. You can barely see the red outlines here, but basically this is a report from Jacobs Engineering from 2009. It shows that the drainage into the Cordova Harbor is from the Old Harbor watershed and the Southville and the New Harbor watershed. I've had a pointer here, but it basically encompasses up Eyak and south to the high school and Odiak Pond and north to Old Harbor. So pretty much anywhere in these areas, which is has quite a topography and a grade to it. If it's flushing down a storm drain up the hill, it's ending up in the harbor. Now, we have all seen a sheen coming from Main Street or even like the post office. And there's cigarette butts and grit and grime in there, and it does end in the harbor. And snow is stormwater too. Snow piles can carry grime, street trash, sand, silt, and oily waste. And the snow covers the dirt, but when the snow melts, it does turn into stormwater. this is some accomplishments to date. I'd like to emphasize that we have awareness now. A lot of people are noticing that we are bringing a presence to the harbor and making some good changes. We have collected many user surveys, and we give out bilge locks absorbents to harbor slip renters. And this is basically something you put in your bilge that collects oil. We have dog waste bags installed at the breakwater trailhead in the harbor master's office. We have 5 PSAs aired locally on the radio during summer months. We've had educational inserts put into the Cordova Times. We've had mailings put into the harbor slip rental mailings. We have a local presence at the harbor and dock cleanups. I've had Rachel Lord from Alaska Clean Harbor / Cook Inlet Keeper come to Cordova and talk to the city personnel, and even she came and did a science talk. And we've had a harbor cleanup day the past 3 years, and we will have one this Saturday, May 2nd. And the biggest accomplishment to date, I think, besides awareness, is we have funding to do something. Okay, the 3 main components of NVE's CCH, these are the 3 main components, and I will address each of them separately as I go throughout this presentation. But the waste and antifreeze disposal is basically a garbage bin management plan with the antifreeze disposal plan. They've been developed and are in design process now. Outreach and education will be done by the development of materials, dock walking, developing user surveys, constant education, and purchasing and installing new signage. And muscle monitoring is to evaluate the effectiveness of the effort by tracking changes in the use patterns of PAH, which is polyaromatic hydrocarbon changes within tissues in the mussels that live in the harbor. Some of our activities for outreach and education include deliverables of annual mailings, rack cards, posters, banners, and advertisements. I have brought a gathering of all of them that we have produced so far to pass around if you'd like to see them. Some purchases have included rain gear, gloves, trash bags, bilge socks, sausage boom, harbor carts. We just added 4 new harbor carts this last month to the harbor fleet of carts. The outreach team consists of Clean Harbor coordinator and support staff and volunteers who will engage harbor users on our efforts, improvements, proper disposal methods, and will seek feedback and information through surveys. We will annually evaluate our project effectiveness, and we always want more volunteers. All right, for waste disposal. Well, there are several problems with the dumpsters at the harbor. One is overflow, and the second are that bins left open distribute trash by wind, birds, etc. EVO's trustee council funds will be used to put a chain link fence with slatting around both dumpsters at the north and south harbors that will prevent garbage from being lost back into the environment. All these components are being done with coordination between harbor staff, City Public Works, Harbor Commission to develop this plan. It is a comprehensive harbor trash bin management plan, has been approved by engineers. And we are working on the development and installation of harbor signage, which highlight user services, locations, maps, and contact information. And I already mentioned the fence around the harbor dumpsters. All right, so from over 100 surveys from harbor users, over 40% of respondents supported more public education and signage in the harbor. Signage is a positive way to inform the public of available harbor services, contact information, and to reinforce best practices. With EVO's funds, we are in the design process of creating a variety of outdoor metal signs, which will be developed for key traffic areas within the harbor. These are a couple of new signs that we just got out last month. They are placed at the bottom of the ramps when you walk down to the first floats. These were donated kindly from the Cook Inlet Keeper and the Alaska Clean Harbors group. This is an example of a permanent outdoor sign, which are in the process of being built, one for the North and South Harbors. The North Harbor, we're thinking of putting it either by the Harbor Master's office or possibly the Fisherman's Memorial, and the Old Harbor will be in the covered area on the float. These kind of signs will allow for a rotation of posters, photos, and information for the harbor users. Alright, so what is antifreeze and why is it dangerous? Antifreeze contains either ethylene glycol or propylene glycol. Propylene glycol is less toxic. However, all antifreeze should be treated as hazardous waste and should never be dumped onto the ground, in water, or in dumpsters. Waste antifreeze contains high levels of heavy metals, including lead and chromium. Glycol is extremely toxic to humans and animals, even in small amounts. Although it might be less toxic, propylene glycol requires a large amount of oxygen to decompose, and when dumped into water bodies, it can deplete oxygen levels, harming fish and other aquatic life. Approximately 2 teaspoons of antifreeze is enough to kill a cat or a small dog. Okay, EVO's funding will be used to create a disposal center located near the used oil receptacle by the new harbor, and a second satellite receptacle will be placed by the used oil container at the old harbor. 85% of harbor users said they would use an antifreeze receptacle if it was provided near the harbor, and harbor staff constantly has issues with antifreeze being dumped into the harbor waters or into the oily waste bin. It is estimated a community the size of Cordova would generate approximately 500 gallons of antifreeze for disposal each year. An antifreeze recycling unit has been acquired. Once it is collected in town, we will look at recycling in Cordova or backhauling out of Cordova. Let's see. Recycling antifreeze happens in 2 basic steps. The first is removing contaminants using filtration, distillation, reverse osmosis, or ion exchange, and then making the recycled antifreeze usable again by using additives. And we are kind of going to do a demonstration study of which would be a better fit for our community. All right, if you could see the picture, it's kind of taken behind Napa. There's about 60 lead acid batteries that are sitting on pallets that are exposed to the elements year-round. So we will use Exxon Valdez Oil Spill Trustee Council funds to design and construct a battery shed, which will serve as a safe storage for harmful lead acid batteries until they can be shipped out of Cordova for recycling. So what are lead acid batteries? They're basically the batteries used in most vehicles, cars, trucks, motorcycles, boats. And each battery consists of a propylene plastic case containing lead plates that are immersed into a sulfuric acid electrolytic bath. Why are they harmful? Symptoms of low-level lead exposure include fatigue, impaired central nervous system functions, impaired learning. Lead poisoning can result in coma, convulsions, irreversible mental retardation, seizures, and even death. Why should I recycle a lead acid battery? If lead acid batteries are disposed of in a solid waste landfill or illegally dumped, the lead and sulfuric acid can seep into the soil and contaminate groundwater, potentially affecting the quality of our drinking water supply. And if batteries are disposed of in rivers, streams, lakes, or marine waters, the lead and sulfuric acid can also threaten aquatic life. When these batteries are stored in a non-proper, safe way, rain will corrode the batteries and they will begin to leak, and then rainwater will wash into our harbor or in the waters. Okay. So, mussels were selected as an indicator species for long-term environmental mitigation project because they are an indicator species. They are a filter feeder and take up contaminants readily. They are an important subsistence food. They are an important prey of seabirds and sea otters. and they are also commonly found throughout Prince William Sound and in downstream habitats. We have modeled our monitoring plan after the Prince William Sound Regional Citizens Advisory Council Long-Term Environmental Monitoring Plan. Contaminants should decrease over time as harbor water quality improves through user outreach and education. And this type of biomonitoring plan will show physical and biological changes as harbor water quality improves, and it will show a baseline data relative to when our project begins. So we're going to be collecting mussels biannually, once in the summer and once in the winter. And I have collected 2 sets of samples so far, once last September and once last month. For a little bit of history, there was some blue mussel tissue sampling done in 1999, where the arrow shows the Cordova harbor of the concentration being at 2.47. That's basically parts per billion. And if you look at some of the other locations, they all have a 0.0 before their number. And that shows that the Cordova harbor is contaminated more than 60 times the mean limit in other areas in Prince William Sound. And it has caused the Cordova harbor to be Cordova harbor is used as a positive control for hydrocarbon studies in the Prince William Sound. That's pretty key. The September 2014 mussel sampling shows contamination from polyaromatic hydrocarbons. They were collected from 10 locations within the new and old harbor. The mean TPAH is 16,049 ng per g, which is a dry weight, significantly higher than other Prince William Sound locales. Analysis shows at least 2 different contamination sources. One is likely diesel, and the other is possibly from old creosote pilings. And I'm currently working with the Off Bay lab to modify the sampling regime, and further testing will be done to identify the unknown source. I'm basically shaving pilings from some of the old creosote pilings within the harbor, and then I'm taking a local diesel from shoreside petroleum that's used in most of the fishing vessels and sending them to the lab for them to do analysis and see which is the likely suspect for these unknown origin tests, or results, not tests. So the mussels collected in March are awaiting analysis until they get these new findings from me. So on an annual basis with the EVOS funds, the project will have 2 time periods. April 1st through September 30th is the busy time of the year in the harbor. It's heavily utilized by mainly the 500 plus vessel gill netter fleet and accompanying tenders and purse seiners. This is the season we hope to reach the harbor users. Our activities will include the distribution of a newsletter to be mailed to 700 ship owners. That will include harbor updates, changes, best management practices, reminders, etc. The second is outreach education material distribution at cannery welcome back picnics, fishing associations, annual meetings, flyers, and 3 user surveys. And the third is we will coordinate weekly and bi-weekly volunteer dock walks where we'll pick up trash, administer surveys, answer questions, and address oil spills and sheens in the harbor. And the second period is winter, October 1st through March 31st. The winter season will consist of evaluations, partner meetings, communication and input to the Harbor Commission, harbor staff, and city, and of course reporting. Our evaluation is to annually review summer outreach and winter infrastructure projects, document the number of bilge pump uses and requests as compared to previous years, to develop, distribute, and analyze harbor surveys as necessary, to identify challenges in achieving clean practices, suggestions for improvements, and monitor PAH and pathogen levels in mussel tissues. So So what can we do to help out? Set a good example. If you pack it in, pack it out. Use non-toxic cleaners when cleaning your boat. Do paint jobs and scraping paint chips on land with a tarp. Use a tarp for net mending. Don't litter. Encourage other boat users to be clean and respectful. Use a bilge boom or absorbents in your bilge. If a spill occurs, stop the flow and clean it up. And use existing services. From a lot of the harbor user surveys I collected, many have shown that there's a lot of harbor users that are unaware of existing services. All right, you can call the harbor master's office and schedule a bilge or gray water pump out. This is the number for the harbor masters, and you can reach them on VHF 16 or 18. This is a picture of their pump out station for bilge. In 2013, there were 26 pump outs. 2014, there was 23 pump outs. Dispose of oil correctly. Used oil, steering fluid, and hydraulic oil only. Do not dispose of antifreeze or other toxic fluids in the used oil bin. Bring your antifreeze, paint, solvent disposals to the baler facility on Whiteshed Road. Web Gilnet is accepted in the red conics behind red and marine. They do not accept leads or quartz, but they do accept your web. And dog waste dispensers are there for our use. Nobody likes stepping in dog poop or stepping around it or seeing it. Can't see the photos very well, but I took some very nice photos of some dog poop on the breakwater trail and on just the harbor itself, on the floats itself. And over on the left is the breakwater trailhead with a full container of baggies. Besides being unsightly, unscooped poop is a problem other places than the harbor too. Cordova's 500 dogs produce an estimated 162 pounds of waste every day, which is more than a ton in less than 2 weeks. What is not picked up ends up on our shoes and in our waterways. Pet waste can transmit hookworms, ringworms, tapeworms, roundworms, and fecal coliform bacteria. In addition, dog waste in our water bodies fuels the growth of algae. Excess growth and die-off of algae consumes oxygen, which makes it less available to other fish and aquatic animals. So this is a summary of our EVOS funds. The contractual costs are the largest component of the funding. It's to address waste bin management, design and construction, antifreeze disposal design and construction, recycling unit purchase and or backhaul, the battery shed design and construction, harbor signage design and construction. And the other costs include muscle monitoring and analysis, education and outreach, and personnel. This is a picture from last summer's cleanup day. It was very successful. We had the Girl Scouts and about 15 community members show up. We collected over 20 bags of trash. This year's Harbor Cleanup Day is this Saturday, May 2nd. Oh, this is a picture of a sound developer being removed from the Cordova Harbor 2011. I'm sure you probably remember that. Yeah, and I was thinking that that might have been one of the sources for the unknown origin of petroleum in the harbor waters too, but yeah, we don't want to see boats sitting there and being abandoned and rotting until they sink in our harbor. It's pretty gross. And that's the end of my presentation. Are there any questions? Haley?
Yeah, there's a couple of boats in the harbor right now that are just like, haven't moved in like, I mean, who knows how long. Is there anything we can do about that?
I think we can voice our opinion that we're not happy with it.
Yeah.
I think the harbor staff has some kind of legality where if it's an unknown vessel, they have to take appropriate steps of action where it has to be improved or approved, I mean, for them to do some kind of like immediate or forceful action on somebody else's vessel.
Yeah.
Like with the South Developer, I was told that supposedly, this might be a complete rumor, that the owner of it like sold it for a penny at a bar one night, and there was a witness to it. I don't know how much truth there is in that, but I hear that those kind of things happened a lot in our harbor.
Yeah, because, yeah, there's some boats on my float right now that, and, I mean, they're an eyesore and they're polluting, and our harbor is like limited for space too, and they're just like taking up space for like no reason.
Yeah.
Just sitting there.
Well, I could add that to my list of concerns,
Yeah,
for sure.
that's awesome about the antifreeze, that'll be a huge deal.
Thanks.
I'll really help everybody out, I'm sure. Yeah, nice presentation.
Thanks. I brought some materials you can take home or back to your office with you.
Yeah, sounds good.
Thank you all for coming on this beautiful sunny